This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
And thank you guys for being here today. Again, I'm Mary Soukup, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the Assistant Secretary at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. And like Kyle said, I'm here to talk to you today about Cattle Trace, an initiative in Kansas to develop and test a disease traceability system for the state of Kansas and hopefully, potentially, for the entire nation. And I'm going to start off and I'm going to show my age a little bit. Mark Zuckerberg. Mark is the CEO of Facebook, and he once said there are many ways to do innovation. You can throw a lot of seeds out on the ground and not really care about which one goes where and just see what happens. At Facebook, that's not what they do. They go mission first, they figure out what's important, they focus there, and that's where they put their energy. And over the next few minutes, as I talk about Cattle Trace, that's something that we have done. Cattle disease traceability is a topic that could be very, very huge. But if we're going to be successful in developing and testing a system to effectively improve our ability to trace cattle movement for disease purposes, we had to stay focused. Before I get into the pilot project, I want to lay a bit of a foundation. Why Kansas? In Kansas, there are 6.3 million head of cattle. Of those, about 2.5 million are in feedlots. Those animals with our current disease traceability system that we have in the United States are not required to have any sort of individual animal identification system. That's a huge gap in the state of Kansas. Another number that's really important to know is again, that 2.5 million. We import on any given year about 2.5 million cattle into the state of Kansas from other states that go to our feed yards throughout the state. We don't necessarily know where they come from, what they were commingled with, and who they met along the way today. We're trying to address that with Cattle Trace, and I'll get into that. A little bit more about the current disease traceability system in the United States. It's been in place since March of 2013, and we're required to have an official identification in all sexually intact beef cattle that are over 18 months of age, and we track interstate movement. So, two big gaps in our current rule. No cattle under 18 months of age, and only interstate movement. Cattle move a lot in the state of Kansas and in all states, and a lot of that movement goes from one operation in the state of Kansas to another, and right now we don't know exactly when that happens. Again, traceability is not a new topic. It's not a new concept, but when we look at those calves that aren't required to be tagged right now and be applied to the traceability system or to the animal disease traceability program, folks have been talking over the last few years. There's been some momentum, and I want to highlight a couple of those initiatives that really pushed us to get Cattle Trace started. Number one, a few years ago, the Kansas Department of Agriculture went to work with our partners across the state and developed strategic growth plans for individual sectors. In the beef industry, the number one priority from cow-calf producers to feedlot operators to packers and livestock markets was traceability. And the sentiment was either, yes, we need it for disease traceability, absolutely, or yes, we need it because of the potential export access we can gather, or it's going to happen. We should take the lead in Kansas and figure out the system and figure out how to make it work for us and for our industry.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamnkansas.com.